Dr. Stuart Titus is best known as a pioneer and longtime leader in the hemp industry. He served for many years as president and CEO of the very first publicly traded cannabis company in the United States. Dr. Titus is widely regarded as a pioneer who helped move CBD and other hemp-derived cannabinoids into mainstream consumer markets, both within the United States and internationally. His background bridging finance, integrative medicine, and business gives him a unique vantage, combining business acumen with an interest in wellness, which helped shape the modern hemp and CBD industry. His public advocacy and testimony at the regulatory hearings in the United States, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations helped influence how policymakers and regulators view CBD and hemp-derived products. In June 2021, Dr. Titus stepped down as CEO and president to focus on serving as a global consultant, spokesperson, product expert, and educator.
So botanical CBD and homeostasis, the great benefits of detoxification. And just to name a few real quickly, body balance, reduced inflammation, great liver support, better sleep, stress regulation, and again, digestive support, antioxidant protection. CBD helps protect cells from oxidative stress, immune balance, metabolic wellness for sure. CBD helps regulate appetite, etc., and balance blood sugar levels. CBD will help you support recovery, especially from excessive physical activity, give you mental clarity, and certainly brain health. CBD provides neuroprotective support for long-term cognitive wellness. The great benefits of detoxification, certainly one can ease into homeostasis. Of course, a body with reduced toxic load can much more easily maintain homeostasis. Certainly the natural detoxification organs, the liver, kidneys, gut, can function without issue. And certainly the body's natural detox systems itself. The body is constantly detoxifying itself through the liver, of course, it filters blood. Kidneys will excrete waste. The gut removes toxins. And certainly detoxification is a continuous process, not a state that can be switched on and off by short-term reliance on things such as special teas, etc. Taking CBD daily to maintain consistent blood levels will support inflammation reduction, oxidative stress issues, certainly internal organ function, and the endocannabinoid system for systemic wellness. So the human body, of course, has tremendous detox pathways: the blood, liver, colon, kidneys, lungs, lymph system, as well as skin, and these are all designed to achieve that great balance within us, homeostasis. So botanical CBD by Canaway will help detoxify the human liver, and this is a great study that we were involved with back in 2021. The highlights of this clinical study reports preliminary results to the U.S. FDA. Investigators report to the FDA no evidence of liver toxicity in the 839 adults consuming oral CBD, and this is botanical CBD. Canaway was a nice participant here, and after 7 months of clinical investigation, the Valid Care Group announced their results. Certainly this study was commissioned and designed in response to the U.S. FDA's requests, including the agency's March 5th, 2020 report to Congress for science-based data regarding hemp-based CBD, and we were proud participants of this study. Now, here, the safety of use of botanical CBD was shown because the study's investigators were super surprised to find out that almost 70% of the study participants, and of course, most people taking CBD are health and wellness aficionados, but about 70% of the participants reported having a medical condition and taking pharmaceutical medications for those conditions without any increase in reporting of adverse effects. So when they got on CBD, there weren't any adverse effects like could be expected with additional pharmaceutical medication. Now, studies of similar patient populations would demonstrate that when they add a pharmaceutical medication, the researchers would expect an 11% elevation in toxic liver enzyme tests, while this particular research with botanical CBD actually described a 9% decline in toxic liver enzyme levels with the study participants. Quote, This unexpected positive finding makes our data even more compelling and provides significant data to consider. This by the chief clinical investigator, Keith Aqua, who's a medical doctor. Now, typical pharmaceutical use increases these toxic liver enzymes. Just to name them real quickly, those in the medical community are very familiar with these, and these will appear on your complete blood count tests. ALT is the first one. I think the next screen might take us to a couple more. Let's see, ALP, AST, and increase in bilirubin levels. These are all characteristic of pharmaceutical medication and being elevated by the taking of these medications. It's just, toxins to the body that the body has to deal with. Again, the Valid Care study showed an average decrease of 9% in these toxic liver enzymes in this almost 900 patient study using botanical CBD. Of course, typical pharmaceutical usage results in an increase of about 11%. So CBD itself in its botanical form is tremendously detoxifying for the liver. And this gets you off to a great start in your overall detox program. Now, CBD also shows promise for managing components of metabolic syndrome, and particularly in preclinical animal studies with effects observed on glucose and lipid metabolism, inflammation, and appetite regulation. The American Diabetes Associations that would state that CBD is not yet an approved treatment for metabolic disorders. Nonetheless, there is a U.S. government patent on treating or preventing diabetes with cannabidiol. And we have a link to this here. Certainly in many animal studies, CBD has demonstrated several potential effects that would target underlying factors of metabolic syndrome, including improved insulin sensitivity and improved glucose metabolism, weight, and appetite regulation. So unlike THC, CBD may reduce food intake, suppress appetite in many contexts. So the U.S. government patent, this is the patent 6630507, cannabinoids as antioxidants and neuroprotectants, certainly shows CBD as a very strong anti-inflammatory compound. Certainly reduced inflammation in the body. Metabolic syndrome is associated with low-grade inflammation, and CBD has notable anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties that can help mitigate this, potentially protecting various organs like the liver and heart from damage. Research would indicate that CBD in its acid form, cannabidiolic acid, acts as a selective, what's called a COX-2 inhibitor, cyclooxygenase 2, meaning it reduces inflammation by targeting the enzyme COX-2, similar to most anti-inflammatory drugs. But here, since you're using a natural product, you don't get all the unwanted side effects. So the dual action of CBDA shows that both inhibiting the COX-2 enzyme as well as downgrading its genetic expression. So this further reduces inflammation within the body. And certainly while CBD also affects the COX enzymes, CBDA, cannabidiolic acid, is noted for its strong specific COX-2 inhibitory profile, differentiating its mechanism from the decarboxylated form of CBD. So CBD will lower inflammatory markers, reducing metabolic syndrome and the associated symptoms. Heart and cardiovascular issues, many physicians will rely on a blood test that looks at what's called C-reactive protein levels. Certainly we've seen in many of our patients having seen significant reductions in C-reactive protein levels by taking CBD, and also reduces inflammatory cytokines, things such as interleukin-6, interleukin-1B, etc. And there's a whole other list of benefits there. In terms of rheumatoid arthritis, this is an autoimmune disorder rather than necessarily a metabolic syndrome, but very closely related. And certainly in rheumatoid arthritis, we've seen a tremendous decrease in these what are called ESR scores. These are, again, blood tests that are done, and particularly when people are on CBD and they have rheumatoid arthritis, you'll see these erythrocyte sedimentation rate, or ESR scores, come down very significantly, and particularly in diabetes. CBD has been shown to lower A1C as well as the HbA1c, hemoglobin A1c scores, as again measured by blood test and blood draws. So CBD will decrease inflammation, CBD will improve insulin sensitivity, as well as CBD also has a protective effect on the beta cells of the pancreas, and here they generate insulin. So certainly great benefits here. Now, just as an illustration, we can take a look at what might be considered a blood profile, if you will, which a finger prick, blood on a slide put under what's called a dark field microscope. And you can see evidence on the left side here of clumped red blood cells. This is what's called a rouleau formation. And on the right side, we see more healthy red blood cells, which then will have a normal electrical charge. It'll be a repelling charge. So the blood cells won't necessarily clump together when they're healthy because of this electrical charge. Now we can get into the verbiage here of this a little bit more in depth. So rouleau is this stack of coins clumping of the red blood cells as seen on blood smears, again caused by plasma proteins, things such as fibrinogen, neutralizing the red blood cells' normal electrical, which would be a negative charge, electrical repelling charge, making them clump and stick together. So here the red blood cells have lost their normal electrical repelling charge, again, reducing surface area and making these clump red blood cells far less able to absorb oxygen from the respiration process, which is partly an electrical attraction. Lower levels of the oxygen circulating within the blood can lead to many adverse health consequences, and you can see a good list of them here. So again, additional benefits of CBD for metabolic syndrome. Obviously, we've seen the visual thing with the dark field analysis blood samples, but of course, improved insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. Studies indicate that CBD can enhance insulin sensitivity and glucose utilization, helping lower fasting blood sugar levels and protect pancreas or pancreatic cells from damage. Weight and appetite regulation. Certainly CBD is quite beneficial here. Improved lipid profile, liver protection as well. As we have seen, we also may show CBD has been shown to have great benefit for what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, as known in the medical community. Certainly, these benefits have shown a great application for many individuals who are taking our products. So metabolic syndrome and CBD, there has been some research, and it's been documented that CB1 and CB2 endocannabinoid receptors are located on subcutaneous and visceral adipose tissue. So these visceral fat tissues seem to be very promising targets for cannabidiol intervention. And one of these studies was conducted on rats. They were subject to repeated what are called intraperitoneal injections of CBD in various doses. Both doses caused a reduction in body weight in these rodents, which was more strongly expressed at a higher dose. So certainly cannabidiol here, CBD, is a receptor modulator, an endocannabinoid receptor modulator, impacts the endocannabinoid system's actions, regulates food intake, energy homeostasis, and results in body weight changes and certainly weight reduction for many individuals. Here is just a picture description of the mechanism of action of CBD and the potential treatment of obesity and related metabolic syndrome. Another study here shows, again, promise for obesity and metabolic syndrome. The evidence here points to CBD's ability to curb overeating, improve metabolic health, and reduce inflammation. More well-controlled human studies are certainly essential, but much of this has already been proven out. Now, in a recent review, particularly in the British Journal of Pharmacology, a publication, and researchers discussed the potential role of cannabidiol, a non-intoxicating compound derived from cannabis sativa, in regulating obesity, metabolic syndrome, metabolism, etc. Certainly, CBD will act through the endocannabinoid system, and CBD will have various effects on this impaired glucose, lipid metabolism, insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, etc. And here, overall, CBD shows promise for reducing food intake, improving glucose and lipid metabolism, and exerting anti-inflammatory as well as neuroprotective effects in preclinical studies. So CBD's broad molecular activity, very favorable safety profile make it an intriguing candidate for managing obesity and related metabolic disorders. Another interesting effect here regards abnormal cell communication and genetic mutation, again, affecting the overall balance within the body. So abnormal cell signals can cause genetic mutations, typically acting as a key driver in cancer development. So when cell communication or this intercellular communication starts to break down, abnormal signals can force cells to divide uncontrollably or to fail to repair any DNA damage. This leads to the accumulation of new mutations. These acquired mutations can activate oncogenes or deactivate tumor suppressor genes. There are various mechanisms of action at play here, and the consequences of this abnormal cell signaling, abnormal cell communication. And this occurs when the communication pathways responsible for regulating cell growth, survival, differentiation are all blocked, overactivated, or destroyed. This leads to severe consequences, including uncontrolled cell proliferation, as what happens in cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, which happens with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, chronic inflammation, and metabolic disorders due to improper cell responses. There are acquired mutations, tumor development, other mutations certainly available here. But again, the interesting thing is that protein misfolding is involved with this. So this means that protein does not develop or unfold into its correct shape when this cell signaling is abnormal. So the correct shape it needs to work properly would be one that we would normally expect. But unfortunately, when this cell communication is abnormal, we see these negative consequences. One cause of this problem is a gene defect. When gene has a mutation, it produces a protein that's built incorrectly. This protein will unfold the wrong way. Misfolding can happen due to aging, stress, or damage within inside the cell. Protein misfolding is linked to many diseases. Again, we've mentioned Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's disease, etc. Basically, in simple terms, protein misfolding, often caused by gene defects, starts as a tiny cellular communication mistake, but can lead to serious health problems throughout the body. And cannabinoids, particularly CBD, exhibit and improve what is called retrograde cell signaling. So there's a biofeedback correction that can correct many of these cell communication errors. So retrograde signaling is a specialized form of communication in the nervous system where a signal travels backwards across the synapse from the postsynaptic receiving neuron to the presynaptic sender. And this modulates neurotransmitter release. So endocannabinoids transmits in this backward or the retrograde manner. So here the endocannabinoid system actually starts to monitor cell communication across the cell membrane, abnormal cell signals, which can cause genetic mutation. However, CBD and endocannabinoids will monitor and correct this abnormal cell communication. So retrograde signaling assists the endocannabinoid system functioning and leads to homeostasis. So these endocannabinoids can provide or can promote neurological activity by one of two ways. They can first suppress synaptic activity involving GABA, which is a major inhibitory neurotransmitter, the process technically known as disinhibition. But overactive and excessive neurological function can also become toxic, known as excitotoxicity. And by inhibiting this excessive physiological activity, reduction of the neurotransmitter glutamate can occur. So here, CBD and the endocannabinoids act as two-way operators, either promoting or suppressing neurological activity within our bodies, and this creates the overall balance within what we call homeostasis. So the endocannabinoids, again, is two-way signaling will regulate homeostasis. Basically, homeostasis, the body's ability to maintain itself in its environment, certainly is deeply connected to the endocannabinoid system. Picture graphic here for those of you who might like to look at and review that. And this interesting retrograde signaling had been originally thought to occur only during embryonic development, but certainly now it's been proven. Prior to 2001, this retrograde signaling was understood only to occur, again, during embryonic development of the brain and central nervous system. However, researchers have learned that endocannabinoids regulate embryonic as well as adult neurogenesis, which means the creation of new neurons in the brain, new nerve and neural pathways, certainly, as well as stem cell migration of this unique form of communication. And this concept of neurogenesis, the creation of these new neurological cells, certainly confers significant anti-aging benefits. Now, getting into part 2, we want to look at CBD and oxidative stress. CBD, of course, acts as a potent antioxidant, reduces oxidative stress, the cellular damage caused by free radicals within the human body, by modulating what's called redox balance, enhancing mitochondrial functioning, and activating these protective pathways such as the NRF2 pathway. It's effective in treating inflammation-related conditions, things such as neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular issues, as well as metabolic disorders. The key aspects of CBD and oxidative stress, well, the mechanism of action, CBD reduces reactive oxidative species, the reactive oxygen species, ROS, lowers the nitrotyrosine formation, and certainly these are markers of oxidative stress. Also, in terms of the mitochondria, we show tremendous protection, how CBD protects mitochondria, the cell's powerhouses, from damage, improving energy metabolism and reducing oxidative stress. The NRF2 pathway is the primary cellular defense mechanism against oxidative stress, inflammation, and toxic damage. Certainly, it's got great significance as the NRF2 pathway is a crucial therapeutic target in neurodegenerative diseases, cancer prevention, as well as inflammatory diseases. Neuroprotective effects and studies, CBD protected neurons against damage induced by oxidative stress, anti-inflammatory role, certainly by reducing this level of oxidative stress in the body. CBD helps to mitigate diseases like inflammatory bowel disease and liver injury. Certainly, there's great application for future research, particularly metabolic and heart health in terms of brain injury, as well as chronic diseases, particularly in terms of brain injury. CBD and research here suggests lipid peroxidation prevents antioxidant depletion in brain injury scenarios such as neonatal hypoxia. So efficient metabolism leads to minimal oxidative stress within the human body. And let's talk about this very briefly. So the oxidative phosphorylation and biology, the Krebs cycle, we might have all seen that, or the citric acid cycle in high school biology. So aerobic respiration is the highly efficient metabolic process in which cells use oxygen to break down glucose, yielding carbon dioxide, water, and a large amount of ATP energy. This occurs continuously in the mitochondria, serving as the human's primary energy source. So oxidation reduction is the final crucial step in this, where the electron transport chain will then allow for tremendous what's called a power gradient, again, powering ATP synthase. This is a ATP enzyme to generate large amounts of ATP. So for every one glucose molecule, about 30 to 36 ATP molecules result as a consequence. So this process, phosphorylation, certainly is the hallmark of efficient metabolism within the human body, particularly at the cell level. Here it's somewhat illustrated. Basically, the cytochrome oxidase enzyme powers the reaction, leaving a very clean residue. The process creates this protein gradient, drives ATP synthase to produce the majority of cellular ATP, again, yielding between 30 to 36 AT molecules from each glucose molecule. We'll show about the inefficient metabolism that leads to significant oxidative stress in the human body. This was first discovered by Dr. Otto Warburg, whose famous work on cancer metabolism, which is now known as the Warburg effect, detailed how inefficient cellular metabolism, which is a fermentation process, can create cancer cells. So these cancer cells use fermentation, or what's called anaerobic glycolysis. So they don't use oxygen. This anaerobic glycolysis will generate ATP energy from glucose, producing large amounts of toxins and lactic acid, even when oxygen is present. So this research and other research led him, this Dr. Warburg, to be nominated for the Nobel Prize 47 different times. So the impact of low oxygen in cell respiration, basically in the absence of oxygen, this electron transport chain stops. So when you don't have oxygen at the cell level, the electron transport chain stops. Cells must then rely on their plan B, which is an inefficient anaerobic fermentation process that yields only 2 ATP molecules per glucose molecule. And certainly this has great we can show relevance for individuals, and certainly those of us who are in this inefficient metabolism are at much greater risk of developing chronic conditions, disease, etc., than those who have the very efficient metabolism we previously described. Certainly, Dr. Warburg here basically shows how the body is severely challenged into a massive cleanup of these reactive oxygen species that happens with this inefficient form of metabolism. The excessive reactive oxygen species causing oxidative stress, which damages DNA, damages protein, damages lipids, all contributing to overall systemic imbalance, rapid aging, and many diseases. So let's go back to this picture here we showed earlier. So the anaerobic glycolysis is very likely with this clumping of the red blood cells, low cellular oxygen levels, low ATP being generated, high levels of residual toxins. On the right side, we see aerobic glycolysis, very likely here, high cellular oxygen levels, high ATP generation, and low levels of residual toxins. So illness and fatigue represents a systemic breakdown created through low, deficient, and impaired cellular energy production, aka anaerobic glycolysis. By strengthening cellular metabolic activities, this will promote aerobic glycolysis and oxidative phosphorylation. This can be achieved through CBD, through detoxification, nutrition, and other healthful practices. CBD is very electric, again, will help restore the electrical repelling charges, allowing more of the oxygen to be absorbed by the cells of the body. Improving metabolic health certainly has great benefit. So CBD, of course, assists in reducing oxidative stress, acts as a potent antioxidant. Certainly we see great mechanisms of action. CBD reduces reactive oxygen species, mitochondrial production and protection here, certainly great effect levels with these mechanisms of action. Getting into part 3, the human body in homeostasis. Things function optimally within us without external reliance. When the body is in a state of homeostasis, the production of things such as stem cells occur, particularly in the bone marrow for tissue repair from daily activities and exercise. In homeostasis, a stable, balanced state, endogenous adult stem cells are continuously active, acting as a maintenance system. They proliferate, differentiate to replenish tissue, replacing cells lost to natural turnover in organs like skin, intestine, blood. Certainly here, stem cells work constantly during homeostasis. Their activation increases here, particularly during tissue stress, injury, or infection. So stem cells and CBD will promote actually what's called hippocampal neurogenesis through PPAR gamma involvement. This research from Stanford University basically shows how CBD will penetrate into the interior of the cell, being transported in by these fatty acid binding proteins. And here, CBD will interact with the nucleus, the brain, if you will, of the cell, and particularly at a receptor site known as PPAR gamma. This again located on the nucleus. That's the command center, and CBD certainly will have this effect to produce new healthy brain cells, new nerve and neurological pathways. Certainly this offers great anti-aging benefits for many individuals. In homeostasis, the body will also produce a glutathione. This is the most abundant antioxidant found in the heart. So in this state of homeostasis, again, the stable internal environment will certainly allow for the production of peptides, and particularly glutathione, to maintain the redox balance within us. Redox, the homeostasis, is again the dynamic balance between oxidizing and reducing agents within the cells, crucial for maintaining a healthy physiological and steady state. There's certainly many aspects here, again, just balancing the homeostasis within the body. This balance is essential for preventing cellular damage and diseases, including neurodegenerative disorders, cancer, diabetes, etc. And the consequences of redox imbalance. We have oxidative distress, where too many oxidants can cause DNA damage, protein dysfunction, apoptosis, cell death, of course, reductive distress as well. So the other side of the coin, an excess of reducing agents can impair cell signaling and communication. So maintaining this golden balance by redox homeostasis is vital for proper cell functioning. Certainly disruption here leads to disease and aging. Glutathione, again, the most abundant antioxidant in the heart and cardiovascular system. This plays an important etiological initiating role in the development of numerous diseases such as cardiometabolic disease and cardiovascular disease. So reduced glutathione levels are commonly absorbed in patients with heart failure and advanced cardiac conditions. To avoid these negative consequences, the body's redox homeostasis has to be preserved. Certainly, we're very excited about CBD being able to balance out the oxidative stress along with the reductive stress as well. Glutathione is technically a tripeptide composed of glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. It's present in high concentrations in most cells, especially in the cardiovascular system. Glutathione acts as a crucial antioxidant, again, protecting cells, particularly heart cells, against oxidative stress. In homeostasis, this healthy, rested state, cells maintain a high glutathione to oxidative glutathione ratio, typically greater than 100, indicating a highly reduced, very stable environment within the human body. And also in homeostasis, there's great benefit for peptides. So the body produces what are called peptide hormones, things such as insulin, glucagon, and endorphins, to regulate processes like blood glucose, metabolism, and satiety to regulate and balance homeostasis. So peptides are short chains of amino acids. They're linked by covalent bonds and act as signaling molecules. Smaller than proteins by 50% or greater, these peptides will play vital roles in regulating metabolic processes, immunity, and tissue repair. So the popular GLP-1 now, which is, of course, very popular among individuals today. Many are taking GLP-1 injections, etc., for weight control. But GLP-1 is a peptide, so technically called a glucagon-like peptide 1. This peptide hormone, specifically a 30 or 31 chain amino acid, produced in the intestinal L cells and in the brain. So this is naturally produced within the body. GLP-1 plays a crucial role in blood sugar regulation, appetite suppression, and digestion by stimulating insulin release and slowing gastric emptying. There are also what are called regenerative peptides, such as what's called the MOTC peptide, which is derived from mitochondria. They're produced to manage energy metabolism, control stress, and maintain homeostasis. So these regenerative peptides act as biological messengers to stimulate tissue repair, reduce inflammation, and enhance cellular rejuvenation. Certainly, the regulation and secretion of these peptide hormones are very tightly regulated. The body in homeostasis, the GLP-1 peptide is naturally produced, and this is done through a process known as butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid that's produced in your gut when beneficial bacteria ferment dietary fiber that your body cannot digest on its own. The primary energy source for colonocytes, the cells lining your colon, butyrate provides up to 70% of your energy needs. So the gut bacteria ferment fiber into butyrate, which triggers the L cells of the intestinal lining to release GLP-1, the same hormone targeted by all these weight loss drugs. But when your gut produces enough butyrate, natural GLP-1 secretion works properly, supporting appetite control, insulin sensitivity, and weight regulation. Butyrate will also cross the blood-brain barrier to reduce neuroinflammation, increases what's called brain-derived neurotropic factor. Certainly, this is a growth factor, improves the GABA and dopamine transmitter signaling, all of which help reduce anxiety, stabilize mood, and protect cognition. And anxiety affects about 40 million Americans, who then seek pharmaceutical medications to assist their condition. So butyrate and GLP-1 are the natural design supporting homeostasis. So importantly, you don't need a synthetic GLP-1 agonist to access these amazing benefits. You just need butyrate naturally produced in the gut from efficient digestion, fermentation of fiber. And this is how the human metabolism was designed to work, not with synthetic shots, but with internal balance. This design basically evolved to work in harmony with ancestral diets, and which were rich in whole foods, fiber, and unprocessed carbohydrates. Disruption of this design breaks the microbial fuel line, not the hormonal hardware. So in summary, we're looking at during homeostasis, the body naturally produces stem cells for tissue repair, neurological benefits, glutathione to manage redox stability, as well as maintain heart and cardiovascular health, as well as peptides to manage cell signaling, internal communication, physiological and metabolic balances. Despite the physiological and their biological significance and established therapeutic potential, there remains a significant knowledge gap in our understanding of peptides, their processing, and post-translational modifications. Now, evaluating homeostasis, well, of course, there are no meters on us, no markers, if you will, to measure our level of homeostasis within us. The medical society will measure overall a very inclusive blood test, what we call a complete blood count, to show. Here again, many inflammatory markers can be determined through analysis of the blood, C-reactive protein, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin levels, A1C, a measure for diabetes. Other blood tests and markers will look at liver toxicity, toxic liver enzymes, including bilirubin. But the overall key to metabolic health is basically blood sugar balance, and this is measured by HbA1c levels. And here's where CBD really shines. So moving to homeostasis can be accomplished by taking botanical CBD. Certainly other healthful practices will help you to get that level, but certainly once you're in that level of homeostasis, there are many physiological benefits to be derived: stem cell activation, balancing glutathione levels, and activating peptide production.
That concludes our presentation, DTX369, The Science Behind the Program, presented by Dr. Stuart Titus. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We value your engagement and look forward to hearing about your experience and the results you achieve with our DTX369 Daily Transformation Program, brought to you by Canaway.